You're listening to the Sex with Dr. Jess podcast. Sex and relationship advice you can use tonight.
Hey, this is Jess O'Reilly, your friendly neighborhood sexologist. And today we are going to be speaking with Emma Sale, CEO and founder of female empowerment brand Killing Kittens. Killing Kittens. Welcome.
Welcome.
Oh, okay,
Thank you.
let's start with the name, because when I told Brandon about killing kittens, I mean, you don't really like cats, but I don't think you want to kill them.
I'm a dog person.
I'm a dog guy too, but I still felt bad. I was like, Killing Kittens. I'm like, cool name, but I don't know. It's got some edge to it. Was that the idea behind it?
But it's weird. It's been 13 years, and it's surprising me how few people actually to say anything about the name. It's sort of a given. But then when you actually think about it, it's fairly screwed up. And we weren't allowed a bank account under that name for the first 6 years of running the business for cruelty to animals. So that's the thing. We were so used to it, but when I take a step back and go, it's a business called Killing Kittens, you go, no, there's something wrong with me.
How did you land on Killing Kittens?
It was I was at a wedding out in Ibiza, had no sleep for about 3 days. The guys at the wedding, they were also in the film world, and they were talking about a script, and that had something to do with the title Killing Kittens. So we were talking about what it was, and it was cyber slang for every time someone masturbates, God kills a kitten. So if you're having a wank, you've just killed a kitten. So killing kittens on that front makes complete sense.
I have killed tens of thousands of
exactly.
kittens.
So,
oh my God!
It's quite a famous sort of meme on a cyber meme.
Of course, I think I had a package of gum that said that, right? Like every time you masturbate,
God kills a kitten.
Yeah, it's a cute little kid.
So killing kittens, you're just wanking.
I can't believe I didn't make that connection. Okay, so you're in from the UK. We're here in New York. You have a big party this weekend, sold out.
Yeah, so tomorrow night we've got a sold out party, about 170 people, which is great.
And two of those people are going to be Brandon and me.
Yeah, I'm not there. We've got we had baby number 3 7 weeks ago, so we've kind of me and my husband have got to shoot back.
Congrats. Amazing.
Thanks.
So you have 3 kids. Tell us, what is the Killing Kittens brand for people who know nothing about it?
So it started 13 years ago as I wanted to create a platform where women can explore their sexuality and feel completely in control and not judged, and it to be a very safe environment, because there was nothing out there, and I just felt that everything was run by men, and the porn industry was all run by guys, everything to do with the adult world. And it was very much that time that Sex and the City had come out, and over in the UK, and Summers, which is sort of a sex company, it's a toy company, had hit the high street. So there's this sort of undercurrent of females exploring their sexuality, and you can have a voice as a girl, and it's okay to talk about your sex lives. But I felt there wasn't a platform or anywhere that women could do that and feel safe. So it was sort of, right, to start with, I'll launch monthly events, and that are just parties. They're mass parties. Single girls can go, couples can go. We don't let single men in, and it was all very much. We had the rules, like the rules of Fight Club, and so that the men couldn't make the first move. It had to be the women that did the approaching, and at the parties, anything sort of could happen. So if people wanted to have sex, they could. If it was sort of lipstick lesbianism, they could, or it's just a party in private houses and private venues. So it started like that, but at the same time, sort of I was growing this online presence, but it was 13 years ago, so it was before social media and the digital world kind of happened. So it was very much a very simple community website where you could search for other members and chat. And it was that side that sort of in my head was very much, that's the bit that I really wanted. I could see the potential in creating this global platform where you didn't have to go to the events. You could be part of this online community and feel supported and talk about anything to do with sexuality, and not be judged, and find other people who sort of support your views and you can meet up with. And so it's grown organically, and in the last 5 years it's very much taken off. And we've launched, we're in lots of 36 cities around the world.
Wow.
Doing events. And the online side has grown into sort of over 100,000 people online.
Wow. And you're launching an app. I saw that you did
Yes.
a fundraiser
So
online.
we just did our first sort of financial raise, which was interesting.
How much did you raise?
We've raised, it'll probably be the equivalent of about $1 million, just over $1 million. So it's
American. So if you're in Canada, that's like 1.3. That's incredible.
Yeah, so it went much. It was way better than we expected, and a lot of it came from our community. We put it out. That's why we decided to do a crowd fund. We kind of spent a few months umming and ahhing about whether we take in big money from sort of 5 individuals who all put in $100,000 kind of thing, and then we were like, well, we've got this huge community, and actually, I'd rather the members feel like they own it. And be part of it, and that's what it's all about. The whole ethos behind it is the community. So I'd rather sort of 300 people feel like they own a bit of it, even if they just put £10 in. And that's what happened. So we've had over 300, nearly 400 people from £10 up to sort of 40,000.
Wow.
And yeah.
What are you going to do with the money?
Go on holiday. Buy a
That's
yacht.
what you're doing in New York. You're not getting a yacht.
No, yeah, I'll get a window of a yacht.
You can buy the yacht, you just can't maintain the yacht.
Exactly. So no, the main thing we're doing is all the tech and digital side, and we do have an app launching this year, and a big online sort of setup. That say, if you cross sort of Facebook and Bumble, so it's sort of you've got that networking, social network, community element with the kind of swiping dating app side to it, but it's all very female focused, and it'll have the rules that the guys can like, but unless the girls like that, they can't sort of just send explicit messages or
dick pics.
Yeah.
Oh.
No dick pic.
Yeah, if you can't feel me or hear me rolling my eyes, I'm rolling my eyes. So this is the app coming out. Let's talk about the party, because I was with some friends a few nights ago in Toronto, and they said, my life's boring. I just go to work, play with my kids. What are you doing this weekend? I said, well, I'm going to New York, and I'm going to this party called Killing Kittens. I described it as potentially a sex party. Is that a fair description?
Yeah, it is kind of how it's, the party on Saturday has been sort of branded, but what's happened is it's kind of developed into, there's a lot more single girls that go along to the event, so it's sort of, I always say it's sort of a big party where sex is a side product. There is that going on, but it's not what it's all about.
Okay.
So there will be a lot of sex
Okay.
that goes on, but it's not sort of like
I can
this-
help with that.
Yeah.
Is the sex out in the open? Like my friends and people that talk to me are so curious about what we've seen and the things that we've experienced. So I've never been to a Killing Kittens party before. I sign up, I go onto the website, I buy a ticket,
Yeah.
I'm going to the event, I'm nervous, I'm just thinking through the whole steps. I wear a mask, so that gives me a little bit of anonymity, if that makes me more comfortable. But I walk through the doors, and what would I expect?
When you walk through the doors, initially it's sort of a mass drinks reception, so champagne reception, and it'll just be like going into a private party and you're mingling around and think these are cool, cool people, and you're just chatting, but there's this sort of air of sexual tension because everyone knows why a lot of people are there and what's going to happen. And then what we find is sort of after about an hour, some people will kind of peel off and disappear into sort of the side rooms, and if you go for a wander, then in these side rooms we have the beds and it's all candlelit, and you will see people getting down and dirty, but you might go into one area and it might just all be girls in there, or it might be sort of 8 couples all kind of. It's definitely not. What you won't see, it's not that kind of swinging sort of setup of like partner swapping in different rooms. It's sort of very much this kind of fluid.
So you're wandering around, different things happening in different rooms.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And it's kind of organic in the sense that there's no theme necessarily. It's just...
No, it's not necessarily a theme. And then, and in the main bits where, the bar is and the reception is, you won't really see it. If you stayed in that area, you probably wouldn't see anything. You might see the odd couple of girls walking around in their lingerie, or a guy in his, boxer shorts taking time out. It kind of, it's not really in your face in that, I go down for some in the London party, sometimes I'm out with friends and we'll just go along for drinks and we'll stay in that reception area, and I'll walk out 4 hours later and go, I haven't seen one naked person because I just haven't wandered around the playrooms, even though there's so much going on. It's contained in different areas, and the rest of the venue is just it's a big private party.
And I think it's really cool that if you would never want to have sex in public, and even if you don't want to watch people have sex, you can go to a space like this and get the excitement,
Yeah, exactly.
the risk, the tension. When we talk about like the chemicals associated with the new phase of love, people are like, how do you reignite the spark? Do things that are really scary. You can go to this party with your partner, be totally 100% monogamous, and agree just to stay in that cocktail lounge.
Yeah, that's what I say to people, like first timers. Just have a rule that you're from the first one, you're just going to come along, you're going to keep your clothes on, you're just going to have a wander, see what it's about, meet and chat to people, and just get a feel for it, and then leave with your clothes on. And then you can decide after your first one, what you're going to do, and if you want to go back. And we have a lot of members who've been coming for like a decade who have never taken their clothes off as a couple, and they say just doing it together and coming out, and they've made some really good friends at the events, and just that charge. They say they go home and have the best sex they've ever had when they leave the event. So
I believe that. There's something about being in that environment. It's just the anticipation of the unknown.
Yeah.
Right? Is something going to happen? Is nothing going to happen? Are we going to go for that wander and walk by that room and see something that kind of, creates, the burning sense? Well, I guess burning sensation isn't the right terminology, but, tingling.
And it is a turn on, exactly.
The fire. So you had mentioned 170 people going to this party.
Yeah.
So it's actually quite intimate. Are most of your parties like around that size?
Yeah,
we don't.
The biggest party we do is one in London, which we get about 240, 250 people. But we've always said we'd never do a party over 250. I mean, we might 300 absolute max, because it loses the nature of what it's about, and that intimacy and the safety. That's the thing. This is about a safe environment for women to feel safe and in control. And the minute you go over sort of 250, 300 people, then it'll be harder for us to ensure that there isn't someone misbehaving or and that personal kind of feel. So, even though it's been going 13 years and we're in more and more cities and doing events, so many events all over the place, and sort of 6 events a month in London, if you go to an event, it won't feel any different than it felt 10 years ago, because we use the same venues, it's the same size, it's the same vetting process, it's that, and that to me is really important.
And how do you maintain that safety? I know, for example, the women have to do the approaching, and that might sound like women are positioned as gatekeepers, which is sometimes one of my concerns, but I think it makes sense given how much more likely it is for men to be aggressive with women. I'm not saying women can't be aggressive too, and they absolutely have to take responsibility for that. But women are more likely to be harassed.
Yeah.
They're more likely to be assaulted. And so you're creating an environment where they're the initiators, and making rules that people decide to sign up for is their choice. That's amazing. You also check ID. I got a number of emails saying to make sure I bring my ID. Do you have like staff or safety monitors or anything like that?
We have staff, and we have security. So we have security that sort of will wander around. We have staff that will wander around the events. It's quite self-policing as well, because you've got the rules in place. Actually, the members are pretty good at policing it, and if a guy approaches a girl and gets a bit touchy-feely kind of thing, the girls are very good at going, you shouldn't be doing that, you're not allowed to do that, or reporting it to someone on one of the staff there. So there is that self-policing feel, because everyone knows the rules, and the guys are there and very respectful, and also every man in there has come with a woman, so there's no single men out on the prowl or groups of guys that have come out, so you lose, I call it, the testosterone factor just isn't in place. It doesn't happen.
Well, and I would imagine if you act inappropriately, you're certainly not going to be invited back.
Well, exactly.
Right. What about phones? Like
phones, we say no phones.
Door? Yeah.
So you keep them. We just say keep them in your handbags, or check them in the cloakroom in your jacket pockets. And again, people are pretty. well policed by people who, if they see someone with a phone, they'll be like, you're not meant to have that.
And where do you say you host the events, kind of at the same venues? Where are these venues? Because from what I've seen on your website, they're like the exclusive spots, very unique, very luxurious.
I mean, for example, London, we've got one massive sort of mansion house, which is right in the centre of London that we use over sort of 3-4 floors. But we've also got this sort of spa, bar, saunery bar kind of place in Covent Garden in London that's our sort of wet and wildest kind of one, which we call Hedonism. We use a cabaret venue, we do KK Cabaret once a month in London, which is, you go and you have dinner or drinks, and there's a really cool burlesque show and an MC that walks around singing, and then it kind of turns. Then there's play areas that so there's just loads of different, and then big country houses we use in, in Venice, we use sort of these cool palazzos on the Grand Canal. Paris, they're sort of big sort of apartments, penthouse apartments.
These all sound terrible, right?
Yeah, they're really shitty.
Well, when I'm in Venice, I prefer to be on the canal.
Yeah. Like European blasé.
Right, yes. So, you also have women-only parties.
Yeah, so we launched last year the Clitorati parties.
The Clitorati.
And we're doing them every kind of couple of months. That's just in London at the moment, but we want to bring it to New York. We've got one tonight actually in London with about 80 girls. But we can use the same venue. So we've got lots of venues that we'll mix, that will work for girls-only events or couples events.
Right.
And then we have sort of singles nights as well, where they're the ones where we let in single men.
Okay.
But they all have to be members on the site.
Okay.
It's the same rules that apply. So there might be 50 single guys and 70 single girls, but those guys have to wait for the girls very much still have to be the ones that do the approaching and the initial chatting.
Okay. And so I'm sure there are many misconceptions, I think, about these parties, like that you're going to walk in and it's going to be a big orgy. And as you said, it's an elegant cocktail reception and there could be play on the sides. I'm sure there are people who will walk in and say there wasn't enough sex for me. And there are people who are going to come and say there's too much sex.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sex is so personal and also everyone's got these expectations and this image in their head that we're not going to match up to every single person's expectation of what they're looking for. And, someone will always get, single girls that come along say there weren't enough guys for them to play with, and it just
there's always too many guys.
Some people want the guys, some people don't want the guys. It just we get people coming and going, well, why isn't anyone playing yet? And we're like, well, why aren't you playing? It's sort of, you can't just stand around, waiting for someone else to start the action off.
And you're not paying people to play if the
exactly.
mood strikes them. So I might go to the party tomorrow night with the intent of playing with Brandon, and I might not be in the mood.
Yeah, exactly.
He might
such
bug
a mood
me.
Thing.
Or maybe I'm not in the mood, right?
Chances.
Yeah, I don't know. You had mentioned 36 cities that you've hosted parties. I have 2 questions. Where have you been to a party where people are most wild and participate the most?
Do you know what we did one in Venice back at the Venice Carnival in February, which kind of worked really well because everyone's walking around the streets in masks and we had a big Italian crowd that came and they were very quick to
Get
start
down.
playing, and it's just very much their culture. You know what I mean? It's sort of their very sexual culture. So
Also, they don't like kittens.
yeah.
They're just like, wank it up. Bunch of wankers.
Yeah, and the girls, we had a big group, of models that sort of came, and they were so open and just got involved with each other, and you're just thinking.
I have this feeling your membership on the site might spike very soon. Sorry, groups of models getting down. Sign me up. Of all the places that you've hosted these parties, where has been the most kind of impressive, extravagant? Like, what was the one that resonates with you, and why?
It's tricky. I think the ones I think that have been the coolest kind of setup is when we take over like big country houses in the UK, because these are big sort of stately home type houses, or we've done a few castles up in Scotland. So it's that when you get that setting, and like the Venice one, because it's sort of a grand palazzo, a lot of them are the old palaces that are. So it's sort of when you've got that kind of setting.
But do you run into pushback? Because I just had an event canceled in Calcutta, India, because of some protests. So do you run into pushback where people don't want to book a party like this?
There is pushback, but we wouldn't, for example, if we tried to go into India, we wouldn't. It's sort of, we'll only kind of do places where, we've got the community already online, so we know we've got the members in place and these aren't big parties. So when we do, for example, we're in Australia, we're in Sydney, Melbourne and Perth, and the parties there have about 50 to 80 people that attend. So we know we can get those. It's not huge numbers we're trying to get.
What about in the States though? Like, I have been at hotel parties in the past where there are issues at last minute where the hotel will back out and say, no, we don't want this kind of sex event here.
That venues are a pain in the ass and a real problem. And so, it's partly why we're here in New York. Me and Cleo have come over is to kind of sort that out and see some venues, because we're very much, over here, because of the numbers we're getting in New York, we have to be completely transparent. We can't, when you're dealing with 30, 40, 40, 50 people, you can kind of fly under the radar and, sort of Airbnb kind of rent apartments or houses without really going into detail about what you're doing. But, for insurance reasons, we can't do that anymore. And so when we do use venues, like the ones we're using in New York, they tend to be the private venues where it is 100%. They're not going to pull out. They do a lot of events in these places. A lot of the time it's private hire. So, you do the bar and everything, and you don't have that licensing issue.
What about you personally? You must face criticism and pushback, and I know that there are people who are going to send you all their love and appreciation, but as a woman in this field doing something...
I think I've had as much hate and stuff as I have love. And especially at the beginning, when I started it, was I remember doing a radio thing, and it was Ireland, and being told that the devil was with me and I was going to hell by some caller. So
that must be my friend too.
That was nice.
They contact me all the time. I got one this week where she called me a whore about 10 times, but the most offensive part was the number of exclamation marks she used as an English teacher. Oh. I was like, you actually only need one exclamation point.
That's one of my pet hates, is when people write with, don't just put, you only need one exclamation mark.
Or all caps?
Yeah, all caps or 10 question marks. You're like, just one will do.
So if someone's interested in a party like Killing Kittens, and it sounds like it's a really safer brand for people who are new to the party, if you can go to this party and just have drinks and not even see the action, if you're feeling nervous, what assurance or what advice can you offer?
Well, again, like I said, at the beginning of this is, if you're going to your first one, just have that no expectations. Just, you can be completely assured you don't have to get naked. You're not going to be made to take your clothes off. You don't have to get involved in the action. It's not going to be in your face, and literally just come along and just say, right, I'm just going to pop in for a drink. I'm going to go for half an hour. And then, that's the thing. No one's forcing you to be there. Once you're in there, you can leave at any point. Just come with an open mind, no expectations, and just know that there's no pressure.
Right, and there isn't as much pressure in, I haven't been to your party in particular, but I find at these parties there is far less pressure than just going to a regular bar. People do not, first of all, the men aren't approaching you to begin with, so this is going to be a really exceptional experience that I'm looking forward to. But if you go down to resorts like Desire Resorts, with whom I work, it's not as though we're sitting at the bar and every couple's trying to have sex with us.
Yeah.
Or that's just not the way it works. People have conversation, you connect, people will walk right up to you and say, are you interested? And you can say, no, we're just here for the vibe.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think we communicate that clearly about sex in more vanilla spaces.
And I always say, I'd say it's really difficult to describe it, but I always say the vibe is way less seedy, these parties, than going to a bar or a club in London. And I'd say it's really hard to describe that because there is sex going on. You have to see it. But the vibe and the atmosphere, it's not remotely seedy.
And people may be drinking less.
Yeah, and there isn't, you go out to any bar or club, or when I was a bit younger, and you'd walk across the dance floor and there'd be hands up your skirt, and it's called running the gauntlet, or you'd go to buy a drink at the bar, and you'd just I'd leave clubs and bars feeling so uncomfortable and just touched and dirty. And yeah, you come to these events and it's the complete opposite, which is really difficult to describe given that there's a lot of sex going on. I always say to people, you kind of have to see it to understand what I'm saying. And I have friends who come along and go, now we get it.
Maybe because there isn't the same sexual stigma and desperation, right? Like this isn't, if I go on Saturday night and we decide not to have sex, it's not the last time.
Yeah.
Right? We will have sex again.
Yeah,
We can come home and have sex. We could wake up Sunday morning and have sex. We could set our alarms on, on October 4th and do it again. So I think that maybe putting the sex into it not only clarifies the communication, but also takes away the tension and pressure and shame that leads to this poor behavior and harassing behavior.
Yeah. Exactly. You take all that out and you take the testosterone factor out. And also it boils down to respect. So you've got an environment which is very respectful and the guys are, respecting the women and the women are feeling empowered and they feel confident and they're respecting each other and the people around them. And you put that into a party setup, it's not going to feel... So, you take away that respect when you go out into bars and clubs and guys treating women like they're pieces of meat and, women can get shit-faced and aggressive and treat the guys like pieces of meat. It's sort of that, then you lose that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, all right, just to wrap up, I know that you don't always see sex at your parties, but sometimes you see wild sex.
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot. The layout of the venue, tomorrow I think you'll see quite a lot going on.
So what's the wildest thing you've seen going into this business?
Just trying to think. Do you think they're quite vanilla? It's not people beating the crap out of each other or 50 Shades kind of thing. We've seen some crazy stuff because sometimes we've had some little kinky themed events, and a couple turned up they came into a party with a suitcase, and they came out of a bedroom with clothes pegs all over them, and and the next thing we know, they've sort of converted loads of other people into pegging each other, and we were like, this is bizarre.
Pegging, you mean like with clothes pegs?
Clothes pegs.
Okay,
yeah.
not pegging
not
as in wearing a dildo and bending someone over.
Yeah.
So what's the largest group that you've seen at one of these parties? Just like a good
80 people.
80 people.
I would say so. The big venue the big house we use in London, it's on the first floor. It's just a huge, great room with, it's a mansion, old school mansion house, so the ceilings are massive. It's huge, and we put sort of 6 beds in like a cross shape down the middle of the room, and that just gets. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Spillover, 80
it's
people.
Like Dante's Inferno with like limbs everywhere.
It's the 80 orgy. I don't want to count how many toes are in that room. A lot of toes for me.
I see that. It's like trying to connect limbs to limbs and the noises going.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily a daisy chain. That could be 60 couples with one another.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't necessarily mean
exactly.
people.
You get some couples who, they just get off on the feel of it, so they just stay with each other, and that's them doing something naughty and, together.
Very naughty. Well, thank you so much. I'm excited for
our
first.
I hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, we're excited for our first Killing Kittens party. You guys can check out more online, Killing Kittens. Apparently the brand is so strong that you don't even hear the pushback about the name. So that is good.
It's KK, and it's sort of become KK to everyone.
That's great branding. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to Desire Resorts for your support of this podcast. Thank you to you for listening wherever you're at. Have a wonderful week.
You're listening to the Sex with Dr. Jess podcast. Improve your sex life. Improve your life.